Good morning and good afternoon, Canada. What a phenomenal night that was last night. Extremely impressive stuff. Great hockey all the way around. And welcome back. Another episode of Flames Cast, number 36. As again, took a bit of a hiatus, a little bit. We're just on a nice little vacation, but we came back at the most beautiful time as Four Nations wraps up last night. The season just about to get underway again. Tomorrow we're resuming the season, but we can't go further without talking about all the craziness that happened last night. Hope everybody's doing well here on this beautiful Friday. Short week here, which is why our scheduling is a little bit different. We had Monday off this week, so no episode was there. We got you Tuesday. I figured there was nothing yet. Couldn't do anything yesterday. Figured we get back to you today on this one. It will get consistent again with your Mondays and Thursdays coming up, especially with all of the deadline stuff coming and the playoff push and whatever else craziness is going to happen. But we promise we will get back to a more consistent timeline. But still, we're pumping out 2 episodes a week. I'm your host, Kyle. Neil is currently in Nashville right now as he's going to see the Preds take on the Devils on Sunday. So hope he has a good time there. I was there in Calgary last week. Got a chance to see them play Seattle. We all know how that went 2 weeks ago. We don't need to go back that far, but we will go as far as back. We will go back as far as to what the hell happened last night. Let's not wait any further. Let's dive right into it. Four Nations final last night, Canada and the US. All the hype leading up to it ever since Saturday, really. There's been so much talk from the U.S. ever since their win, and the hype that led up to it, leading from President Trump calling the U.S. team the morning of, getting them fired up. You get Mike Eruzione coming out to drop the puck, the honorary captain for the U.S., the honorary captain for Canada being Wayne Gretzky, the national anthem speaker deliberately messing up the Canadian national anthem in response. It's all in good fun, and in the political mash, everything came at such a perfect time, and it was a perfect storm. But alas, after a tight game, we'll get into it a bit more, it is the torch being passed. McDavid all alone in front and buries it past Connor Hellebuyck in overtime to give Canada the win 3-2, and the first and likely only winners of the Four Nations face-off. It was a great game in the sense that there wasn't any fighting. The refs kind of just let them play outside of there being, I think, one penalty in the entire game. The U.S. never got on the power play last night, which I thought was fascinating. But they just kind of let them go. And full credit to the refs, full credit to the players for letting them go. Canada getting off to a very early start there. Obviously, we saw McKinnon get one early. Brady gets one with room in front. A lot of, not a lot of eyes on the puck there for Hellebuyck or Binnington on the first goals there. Couldn't really see what was happening. Too much traffic in there, hence why both of those kind of went in pretty easily there. Jake Sanderson, again, they get traffic in front, managed to fund one by him again. Good tournament, by the way, for Jake Sanderson to kind of just get thrown in there, and he goes out and scores in one of the biggest games of his career. So kudos to him. And then, with Sam Bennett's goal coming down there late in the second period, I was surprised with Hellebuyck in the sense that he was so low when Bennett was coming in on him that he left so much room up top, and Bennett with just a beautiful shot. Another great feed from Marner as tied things up in the second period. Pretty even Steven there in the third. And then we all know what happens there in overtime as McDavid seals the deal. So, biggest takeaways from last night's game. The game itself. I got to say, on a hockey side of things, it's great. Everything about it, we already know this. It's been alluded to this already in the past couple of days and even after yesterday. Like, the hockey side of it was great. It was a perfect storm in the sense that I didn't love how everything just kind of got meshed in, which kind of heightened it even more. And, it was better for the ratings and again, good for the NHL and great for that. I kind of laughed last night afterwards, specifically to our friends down south. And a lot of backtracking happened after the game where, we need a best of 3. We need, you won the All-Star Game tournament. Congratulations. The one biggest takeaway, and the one thing that I'm taking away from this, and the biggest thing that we learned last night is this. When the lights shine the brightest, when everything's on the line, no best of 3, no best of 5, blah, blah, blah. This is your best of 3, best of 5. This is game 7. This is for all the marbles. There is no tomorrow, quote unquote, with this tournament. When the chips are down and when everything's on the line, that man in net, Jordan Binnington, who has been doubted his entire career, leading all the way back to his days in the OHL when he was a goaltender for the Owen Sound Attack, who won the title against a team in the Mississauga St. Michael's Majors, is what they were called at the time. They were severely underrated against that team. Game 7, they go to win. We know what happened back in 2019. I don't need to say it with Binnington and the Bruins. But with Jordan Binnington, when the lights were the brightest and everything was on the line, he can deliver you the best game of his career. When everything matters, he's going to give it to you, right? Now, obviously, on Saturday, you let in a muffin here and there, and that could have easily happened last night, and the tide swing. That could have happened last night at any point. If he let a muffin in last night, if he let an easy goal go in last night, we're probably talking a different outcome. He didn't. He shut the door last night, and I give him full credit, and I think there needs to be a lot of Canadians who need to apologize to him for the way that he was kind of observed, because the way that I saw it throughout the tournament, I didn't think he played necessarily a bad tournament. I thought he was okay. I just thought he let in 1, 2 maybe bad goals, and then you take away a little bit from, the Finland game. Sure, he let in a couple of bad goals, but other than that, I thought he was pretty solid for the most part. Obviously, the name of the game is to keep it out of the net, but again, though, when everything was on the line, when you needed him the most, he was going to be the guy that was going to give you the best chance to win this game. And ultimately, he was the biggest X factor last night for the Canadians. He was going to be the biggest X factor. There was nobody else bigger than him, right? He needed to be the guy to give that team a chance to win, and that's exactly what happened. Rob Matthews 3 times in overtime sets up the chance for McDavid Marner down at the other end, and the rest is history. So I give full marks to Binnington. Personally, he should have been the MVP for the game. I think a lot of people can kind of agree with that. I understand why McKinnon was the MVP for the tournament, but there were no real excuses last night for both teams, right? Both teams are playing through injuries, which is another thing that I saw come up, right? The Americans losing Charlie McAvoy, Canada not having Josh Morrissey. You want to complain about Tkachuk being hurt? Also, on the other side that people are forgetting about is that Shea Theodore was not there, who was a big reason, he was a big part of that defensive core for Canada, right? Offensively, they were fine. Also, too, for the Americans who were wanting to nitpick a little bit, which I was reading a lot of last night, you guys had everything. I picked the team to win before all of this, and call me a hypocrite if you want, for picking the U.S. to win, and obviously I'm rooting for Canada last night. But I stuck through it all the way through. The only reason I assumed that the Americans would pull it out was because of the fact that they were more well-rounded. I thought they were just deeper in terms of the bottom 6. I thought they were deeper in the bottom 4 of their defensive unit as well. I thought for that reason alone, they were going to be able to match with the top 6 of Canada and be able to match Makar's pace and yada, yada, yada. So that was one of the reasons why I had the U.S. But again, it was the reliability. It was going to come down to Jordan Binnington last night, whether you liked it or not. You can look at so many different factors. You can look at McDavid trying to find space last night, which for the most part, he was pretty quiet until the overtime goal. You can look at who's going to burst out the scene. And for the most part, it was McKinnon last night. Crosby was fairly quiet too. For the Americans, they kept continuing to do the same thing and ultimately found an identity by the end of this tournament that they're going to use going forward, being physical, being aggressive, and making the other team beat them based on the fact that we're not giving you much ice. And that's exactly what they did again last night. And I thought they did a tremendous job of doing it. You can name all of those other things, but the one lying X factor was always going to be Jordan Binnington, the guy coming into the tournament as Canada's the worst goalie tandem out of the four nations. And it turns out that having Binnington in the biggest moment when the lights were the brightest, he was the right call. And I kind of saw it coming in that sense, because you know that he's not going to give it to you every single night, and he's not going to turn back into 2019. But everything got answered in the sense that that guy is going to show up when it matters the most. And he did. And he frankly did it last night. So it was great in that sense there. Great for Canada, great for hockey. I think that it's going to skyrocket things going forward. The only question I have, and maybe that are on a lot of people's minds going forward, is are they going to carry this momentum from the Four Nations tournament into the regular season and obviously into the playoffs? We know they show up in the playoffs. We know it's all there. We've seen it before. But the big thing I think that is really missing is that you need storylines. You need players to continue to open up more, specifically in the regular season, to make it even more appealing to the new hockey fans. Because the loyal fans aren't going anywhere. It's the new fans that the NHL is obviously trying to tap into, and they did a phenomenal job of doing it over the past 2 weeks. So the problem is going forward is you have to find a way to keep up that momentum. For any new fans that were watching this Four Nations tournament, now looking to pick a team, now they have now it feels like they have an opportunity to do something special here in the last month. I really believe this next month before the playoffs begin is the most important in terms of gaining a new audience for the NHL going forward. You need to have that same level of impact. You need to have that same level of aggression. And because there's the playoff push, you need to have that type of urgency the rest of the way through. I think it's going to be very interesting to see what that's going to look like over the course of the next month, because you've got this new audience. You've had all your eyeballs on you these last 2 weeks. Now it's time to carry that momentum going forward. I'm very curious to see what they're going to do. I thought it was a successful tournament, but the momentum of it needs to continue going forward in order for this to still be successful. And they are. And the whole thing was, but you want to bring in new fans, you got to keep it up a little bit. One thing we mentioned last night when we did the live stream on the THPN channel, the one thing we were keeping an eye on that I wanted to talk about today too was Matthew Tkachuk, right? It was apparent that we all saw, he's injured, he's on the bench, he's not coming out, and it's something serious, right? If you're a Florida Panther fan, you're lucky at this point. You're lucky to be in a position where you're pretty comfortable finding a way to get into the playoffs, because the way that I see it, and I might be totally wrong, we're going to find out in the next 24 hours the type of injury that he's going to get. But man, you might lose him for the next around 2 to 4 weeks is what it sounds like. This is not a guy that sounds like he's going to come out and play on Saturday, on Sunday, and maybe some of the games next week going forward. Curious to see how McDavid's going to do on Saturday as well when they play at 1 o'clock Eastern in Philadelphia. So lucky for him. I mean, he can just meet up with them pretty quickly and not have to go cross country. But I imagine that the players celebrated last night. They're going back home to today with their teams or wherever they're at, because the NHL is not wasting time and they're going to continue this moving forward. I mean, starting tomorrow, who knows? Even today, a little bit. It's a little bit of a reaction day, but starting tomorrow, Four Nations things in the past. It's gone, and you got to keep moving forward. So if I'm a Florida Panther fan, I got to feel very lucky in the sense that we have the number 1 seed in the Atlantic. And we're probably going to lose Tkachuk for the next, 2, 3, maybe 4 weeks. That's what it sounds like. It sounds like it's not good. Brady even said it last night in the locker room that it's just not good. So you have to assume that it might be weeks that he could be gone for. We'll have to see the extent of it. They want him healthy for the playoffs, and I fully understand that. And I think that they're in a position where they're not urgently needing him back into the lineup. So sucks for Florida in that sense. But again, you're very fortunate that it could have been a lot worse, and you're not losing him for long term. Who knows? I think we're gonna find out in the next 24 hours how bad this could really be. We might find out today. I'm just really curious of that. Ever since watching the stream last night and seeing it live, going, man, that guy's gonna be out for a hot minute. So, yeah, I mean, I can give all the reactions, that everybody's kind of been hammering and clamoring about, but at the end of the day, what it came down to last night was one man, and it was Jordan Binnington who clearly stole the show. So we don't have to wait long, which is the good part. We're going to see the Olympics next year, a year from now. But the fact that it was just time to get these guys all playing together under one nation, it was beautiful. And now they set themselves up well for the future because they're getting more of this and because the players were all buying in. Got to keep the momentum going, though, going into the regular season. All right. Let's quickly go to an ad read break here. We'll get into what the Flames schedule looks like now going forward. We got the Sharks coming up on Sunday. We got to flip the script here. Regular season resumes this weekend, and the Flames playoff push is now back into the center of our minds. And we're going to talk about the road trip coming up a little bit more too, how that's going to look. But for now, we are going to do a very quick ad read break, and we'll get to all Flame stuff on the other side. Also, let us know too what you guys thought, your thoughts were on the Four Nations tournament as a whole. And we'll be back on the other side here with some Flames talk. It might not feel like it. That's not the right script. Let's try that again. The NHL season has been as predictable as a puck rolling on its edge. No one knows where it's going, but that just means there's time for your favorite team to figure things out. And the game's left for you. And there is games left for you to get in on the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. It's super easy for first-time users to get started. Try betting on something simple like picking a team to win. Go to DraftKings Sportsbook app, select your team, and place your first bet. And if you're new to DraftKings, listen up. New customers bet $5 to get $150 in bonus bets instantly. Download DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code THPN. That's code THPN. For new customers to get $150 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5. It's only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. All right, so bit of news that happened too, especially a couple of days ago in Flames land here. We were getting word today that Adam Klapka is coming back into the lineup. Looks like he's going to be available Sunday night. They switch Klapka with Jan Kuznetsov. He goes back to the Wranglers on a little conditioning stint, I believe it was, to practice with the team. Ilya Soliev will stay with the team going into Sunday. He will be in the lineup, it appears, because Tyson Barrie has now been put on waivers. So we're going to find out, I believe, by 2 o'clock Mountain Time today, whether or not Barrie was going to be picked up by waivers or if he's going to get sent down to the AHL. And for Tyson Barrie, it sucks because you watch him in the games that he was in this year. It's just you get one of those feelings where if nobody picks him up here at the waivers, you feel like his NHL career could be over, right? And it's unfortunate because he used to be a top 2 NHL defenseman at one point in time, and he was with the Avalanche and with the Leafs, and at some point his game just kind of faltered wherever it was along the line, and I feel for him, and I hope that just for a guy like him, he deserves to play in the NHL, whether that be out in San Jose or on a rebuilding team. Go to Chicago, give him a little bit of insight, or give him something to kind of root for. I just feel bad because that's a guy who, for me, belongs in the NHL, but clearly, in the games that he's played this year, there's a reason why the Flames never really brought him in, because there's the younger guys that are up and coming and are looking for a shot, like Soliev, coming in to the game on Sunday against San Jose. So we're going to find out in a very few short hours whether or not Barry's going to be picked up on waivers or not. We'll have to see. If not, it's probably the last time we see Barry in a Flames uniform, because unless something dire happens defensively and then over the next month, that might be the end of his tenure as a Calgary Flame. So those are the only real news that we have there in terms of right now roster-wise. Connor Zary was out there seen practicing with the team along with Kevin Ball. Ball expected to be back on Sunday. Connor Zary, no real word yet on whether or not he's going to return on Sunday as well. But, man, over what we saw in the last 4 or 5 games, yeah, this team's missing Kevin Ball a little bit. And that shows you why he was so important to this team before the break, because with the games against Colorado and Toronto and Seattle, they were really missing the big body presence of a defenseman. And they weren't able to attack the 1-3-1 formation they really wanted to use while giving Kevin Ball the chance to be that defensive defenseman. So, yeah, we're glad to have him back, though. He's going to be back on Sunday, from my understanding. And I imagine that Connor Zary, the way that it looks is if he doesn't play Sunday, they want him ready for the road trip, as you're going to get a very healthy Flames team going into this road trip. We talked about it a bit on Tuesday. It's a big road trip coming up. It all starts in Washington. They go down to Florida to play the 2 teams in Florida, and the Panthers and the Lightning. They come back up to play Carolina. They come back up to play Philadelphia, and then they go out west to Dallas. It is not an easy road trip. I think if you come out of that 500, then you're looking okay. And also, too, based on the news that we saw today with Kevin Lankinen, who signed a 5-year, $4.5 million deal with the Canucks, I wonder if that tells you that that is more of an insurance policy for the Canucks in case Demko is never really 100% and the injury concerns are really starting to show. So it might just be for insurance. It's a long-term insurance plan if that's the case. But if you're a Flames team looking at this weekend alone, it's a perfect opportunity to go in this road trip 1 point behind Vancouver. The Canucks have to go into Vegas Saturday night while the Flames get the San Jose Sharks on Sunday. We said it before the break. 3 points is easy to get to fix, because you can fix it just by winning this weekend and hoping Vegas does their job, right? If that's the case, boom, you're 1 point behind, and it's a whole new ball game entering March, entering this road trip coming up. The road trip ending actually right around the trade deadline, I believe, too. So they have to go a full road trip here before the deadline comes up. And this is the time. We're going to find out a lot about this team going into the next 6-7 games or so, man. We're going to find out whether this team has what it takes to kind of, you got to go into the Lions' den a little bit and prove why you belong in the playoffs. So I think it's the perfect test. I love it a lot. I think they have to go into some tough environments in Washington, in Carolina, in Florida, in Fort Lauderdale, in Tampa. You got to go into some tough environments, and you have to find a way here. And the Flames are playing a lot of road games coming up in March, too. They have to go play the Metro teams in the New York division, the New York area with the Devils, Rangers, and Islanders. So you still have to play that a little bit. And then you also still have to go to Toronto, play the Leafs. You got the Canadians as well, too. I know they kind of faltered, but or the Canadians come to you guys. But anyway, all of that to say, they still have the Canucks on the schedule coming up after this road trip. So I would argue to say that, even the Kings, too, are still within striking distance, too. They are not out of the woods either for LA. They need to realize that things can change like that. And the Kings need to keep finding a way as they try to get more healthier. They're getting a healthy Drew Doughty back, and that's going to probably help propel things going into March. So the whole thing, though, is before the deadline, even throughout this road trip, is, if you're Craig Conroy, just let the players go. Let the coaching staff do what they need to do. Sit back and watch, because that's the best thing you get to do right now. Because if you need to go out for any reason, and what I told Neil the other day was, if you need to go get a 4th, 5th defenseman, right? That's something you can do on deadline day. You don't need to do it days before, right? That's something that you can go do on deadline day to get some insurance, right? And also, too, you're not giving away any major assets in the process because their value just isn't going to be as high. You want to get rid of a 4th or a 5th round pick, I have no problem with that whatsoever, right? If you want to just get some little insurance there on the defensive side. Maybe they end up signing, who knows, right? But you don't need anything crazy at the deadline. And frankly, there's no reason to sell at the deadline either. The Flames more than likely will not be active since the big trade of acquiring Morgan Frost and Joel Farabee, who we're going to see a lot more of now come this road trip, which I'm excited to see, and I know Flames fans are excited to watch as well, too. So, Conroy doesn't have to do much. I think he knows that. I think he knows that he's just going to have to sit back and watch this little road trip to see what unfolds. He's not going to be a big seller. Anderson's already off the market. He's not going to be going anywhere. If there's anything that's going to be done in that regard, they are going to look at it in the offseason. There's nothing that they can do about it now. They're in a good position. And again, for everyone clamoring about, but they're so close to being in the top 10 this year, don't. I'm saying it. I don't know how many times I have to say this, but you're going to have to lose a draft pick to Montreal. Are you willing to lose it this year by finishing outside the top 10, or are you willing to lose it next year by finishing inside the top 10? Top 10 meaning the bottom 10 of the league. The draft class this year is not as high, okay? You already have 2 first-round picks. You're keeping that. They are keeping those picks, okay? My eyes is just lose the pick. It's fine. I don't think there's a player inside the top 10 this year that I don't think it's as deep as last year's draft class. That's just me. There's probably a diamond in the rough, but it's okay to lose the pick because you have 2 first-round picks to go off of. And then you can look at next year and go, great, we still have our first-round pick, and we have Vegas's first-round pick too. So there's still room to play with. It's okay if they finish outside the top 10. There doesn't need to be, it's okay if they finish in the mucky middle this year. Make the playoffs or not. This is a huge step for Craig Conroy and this team this year because they understand that they're still within this timeline, this 2 to 3 year timeline of getting things right and being competitive. They're on the right track. They're doing the right things. They just can't stray away from it, and they won't. And I have full trust that they're going to continue to do that. So the nice part about it is this summer, too, if they wanted to trade some of their bigger names, that's okay. They can do that and acquire a little bit more capital because, again, you're not straying away from this 2 to 3 year plan that this team has, which is fine. So they can do that in the offseason. Priority number 1, though, is going to be signing your young guys long-term. It's going to be signing Zari, it's going to be signing Coronado, and it's going to be signing Wolf. They want to lock those guys down. I believe it's going to happen. They know it's going to happen with Dustin Wolf. They know it's going to happen with Coronado, and they know it's going to happen with Connor Zari. This is a core that they're ready to build around, especially with the young guys coming in like Morgan Frost and Joel Farabee. They're ready to do a bit of retooling. And already talked about this before, and maybe the last thing that I'll say for today, ever since the NHL announced that the cap hit will go up, it becomes more and more of an incentive down the road, if they need to either reconstruct Jonathan Huberdeau's contract or terminate it. Don't be surprised if that ends up happening down the road. So it's a bad spot because you're still trying to encapsulate everything within this team in order to be successful. And I really hope the one guy that I really hope paid attention to this Four Nations tournament was Huberdeau. That everything that Four Nations tournament showed, what a lot of these players, not just Huberdeau, should be taking away from is that's what champions look like. Not just because they're star players, but that's what it's going to take every single time. It's the willpower and the determination, the aggression, and emptying the tank, right? That's what it's going to take. Doesn't matter if it was the U.S., doesn't matter if it was Canada, Sweden, Finland, whatever. What we saw in this Four Nations tournament, a lot of players should be watching that going, all right, like that's what it's probably going to take, right? Especially for this Flames team wanting to make the playoffs, that's what it's going to take every single night, especially going into this road trip up and coming. That's what it's going to take. It doesn't have to be pretty. It doesn't. You can get all the garbage goals you want. You can make it not look so pretty, but the work ethic and everything that goes around with it and everything that encapsulates with it, that's what it's going to take. And they need to hone in on that. And that's going to be the most important thing for this team going into this road trip. So that's going to be it for me today. Quick little episode to get you guys out. We will be back to you on Monday. We're going to be back to our regular scheduled programming. We will recap the Sharks game that happened and any other news that happened over the weekend. Congrats again on the Four Nations tournament. Huge success. Congrats to all teams, all the players, all the management and coaches for doing a sensational job this entire tournament. Everything was set up beautifully, and we hope that can be a catalyst for what we want to see to come within the future of hockey. All right, that's going to be it for me today, guys. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the sunshine. It's getting warmer here in Ontario. We're getting rid of this snow, and I hope we can hear everybody from next week and hope that the snow is starting to melt. With the snow melting, it can only mean one thing in the NHL, the playoffs right around the corner. We'll see you all on Monday. Have a fantastic weekend. Cheers.